Welcome to the You Are a Force podcast channel, your go-to space for real stories, fearless dreams, and unstoppable women rewriting the rules. And the force behind this podcast. Here is your host, Binoli Botadara.
Hi everyone, welcome to You Are a Force, the podcast where we celebrate women who just don't chase the spotlight, but they decide who steps into that spotlight. I'm your host Binoli Botadara, and today's guest is someone truly special. I promise you, a million girls would kill for a job, and literally, from starting as Anna Wintour's assistant to becoming a strategic backbone of Condé Nast's talent group, she has spent over 2 decades, yes, 2 decades, doing what world see as iconic. Working alongside Anna Wintour has actually given her a full perspective. Also, she has been a part of 300 Vogue covers. She has also been a force behind Met Gala's high-stake guest lists, and it literally looks like a fantasy she has lived all throughout. She has also worked into Vogue UK, British Vogue, and a lot of other sides of the full story of the Vogue magazine. And she is none other than somebody who I would love to spend an hour with, because now she has started her own agency and she's also a trusted force behind or advising leaders like Nita Mukesh Ambani, and an absolute confidant of a lot of other high profile people in terms of culture, fashion, and everything in between. So without a further ado, please welcome none other than Jill Demling. Jill, thank you so much for being on You Are a Force.
Thank you for inviting me. I host a podcast and now I know what it feels like to be
To
on
be
the
on
other
the other side.
side. I don't know which one's harder. We'll see.
Well, we'll see with that. But I'm so excited. I could not sleep well last night because we were supposed to record it today. And when I was researching your life and, I was basically stalking you in a way, I have lived a few seconds in your shoes. And that was so glamorous and that was so amazing. And imagine, I was just thinking, I wish I was a fly on the wall, when you must be working in those cover magazines or, shoots with these iconic people. But then I was like, no, if I'm wishing, I might as well wish to be on the cover rather than just be a
Yeah,
fly. So,
exactly.
well, that's not happening yet. So I might as well pick your brain and, we start with that. So, but I'm beyond excited to talk to you today.
Thank you. And we talked a bit before we came on about kind of my process and how I put my thoughts down to organize them. I'm a very type A, and so if it looks like I'm reading, I am. But, I got to sit with some of these questions, and I just want to be able to give the fullest answers to people listening and not end up going off on some um, story that is relevant in my mind, but might not help someone that is looking to enter the industry. So
Love
just
that.
putting that out there.
Love that. So, Jill, let's start from the beginning, right? You grew up in Boston. I have, by the way, lived in Boston for a bit. So you lived in Boston and you had posters of Linda and Christy on your walls. And so I want to know, what was your childhood like? And did you want to become a supermodel? And that's why you had aspirations of those women or on your room walls? Or you had like an outlandish sort of dream of becoming an astronaut or doctor or something completely different?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every girl probably thinks, or acts like there's a runway between her bedroom and the shared bathroom with her little sister, right? I mean, you go through that phase of just, living out that little moment of, you usually do it in private or in front of family, but, I was always playing dress up, trying things on, putting on little fashion shows. My mom was really into fashion, and we'd go to like the Esprit, like there was an Esprit warehouse type place in San Francisco where it was one of those huge, what are they called? It's like a where you can get everything kind of on sale or get things that didn't
Yeah,
necessarily get
I know what you
produced.
mean.
And
Yeah,
yeah, and it was an outlet, the Esprit
yeah.
outlet. And that was like heaven. I would try everything on and just almost kind of get into the attitude. I remember there was like these pleather plastic like parachute pants. We're talking the 80s here, which
But
was a great time to be a kid.
I'm
The
sure.
80s, you got neon for the first time. You got leg warmers. You got the Fame sweatshirt that was off. We lived it the first time, and
Sure.
that was really fun. In the moment, it didn't seem like it was so far off. You look back at it now and you're like, what were those people doing in the 80s? But what's
Yeah, fair.
funny is that, my childhood didn't point to fashion at all. From ages 3 to 6, I literally would call myself a boy. Like I was me boy when I was living in Madison, Wisconsin. And my mom would say now that it's because all the neighborhood kids were boys at the time, and I was 3. So, we'll leave it at that. And then
Sure.
when I left there and moved to Sacramento, California, and, I was in Catholic school. So I was in a uniform. And we had hot dog day maybe once a month on a Friday where we could wear our own thing, but I was more comfortable in the uniform. So, there I'm in the uniform. And then I moved to the suburbs of Boston, and I was wearing my uniform to school, to public school. And you have to think about you having been there in the town I was in and a lot of New England. It's a woman in a sweater with a big whale and a long skirt with little whales. It's something I had not seen before. And here
Sure.
my mom is dressing like Sheena Easton. I mean, I remember our first like school parent teacher conference. I'm in a new school. She's wearing like a mustard yellow leather jacket with royal blue, bright blue, electric blue
Wow.
leather pants. And I'm just like, again, with all the women with the whale and the little whales. And I was like, ah. But at that point, everyone was tomboys, wearing sweatpants to school, which is something we weren't even allowed to wear on hot dog day. So, I thought being a tomboy was untucking my white, crisp butterfly collar, shirt. So,
Yeah.
it's not like I ever was thinking about it as fashion. But
Mm-hmm.
looking back, I can see how, what you wear, it transforms how you feel.
Oh,
So,
100%.
we had Guess jeans at the time, and I'll never forget a girl who had, who couldn't afford Guess jeans, and I don't know how they did it, but her mom must have found a pair, or she was able to buy one, and she cut the triangle out and would sew it onto other pairs. And that just shows how important that was,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
status symbol. In the Benetton sweatshirt, what color did you find? It was a green or blue. So I do think between the fashion at the time being so loud and my mother, she influenced me more than I realized, with this glamorous out there style. And looking back, it wasn't about wanting to be a model or anything like that. It was about expression. Like I said, I just didn't have the language for it yet, which
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know it was a job. Let's put it that way. So I just think it was something I knew I enjoyed.
Love that. No, I also completely agree with you that an outfit really transforms. And I also have been very blessed to have both my parents, particularly my mom. She is also like your mom in terms of, maximalistic in a way. She would not, and at times I would joke that, mom, you look like bride's mom, and like when you go to weddings, and she's like,
Yeah.
I don't care, I'm gonna wear what makes me feel happy, and as per my mood or whatever. And that's when I just realized that when boys say that, oh, girls wear something to impress them, I'm like, no,
No,
darling, no
no,
way.
that's so
don't be,
wrong.
don't flatter yourself too
Yeah,
much. So,
exactly.
so just picking up on that, Jill, completely different start to your education, which you did math major, and then basically you did art as well as the
Yes.
study, and then basically Harvard Business Review says that anyone with interest into the art and math, basically they become the most successful leaders because they can actually, have a mix of both left and right brain
Right.
in a way. And so, wildest of your dreams, did you plan to be at Condé Nast, or how did that happen? Because when you walked into 4 Times Square on a Friday and you landed up with a job which started on Monday as an assistant of Anna Wintour, it feels like I'm reading a novel. So can you
Right.
just take us through the memory lane? How did it all happen?
Yes. Well, it was actually 350 Madison. So we
Okay.
that's where I started, and then yeah, I moved 3 times with Conde.
Okay.
But yeah, I studied math, which people always find surprising, but for me it made perfect sense. I've always been very visual, and math is very visual. You
Mm,
know, I remember just looking at, and well, I'll talk more about this later, just solving a quadratic equation, right? You start with one equation and you end up with a small equation. What the fact, A equals B equals, etc. But the solving of it, it gets bigger and
mm-hmm,
bigger till it gets smaller. So, I mean, when I look at this one full page of the solution,
mm,
that was art to me. It was just I can't even explain it. But as for how I got to Condé Nast, it was completely unplanned. A friend connected me. Well, let's go back. I was working for Brian Lord at CAA in LA, and I had realized that wasn't really the industry for me. Little did I know I'd kind of end up circling back in a sense. But his sister-in-law had set up an like informative meeting at Condé Nast, and I didn't really know why I was going there or who I was meeting. I remember meeting the head of HR, Bucky Keaty, and she asked me, "Do you read Vogue?" And I said, "No." "Do you know who Anna Wintour is?" I said, "No." And, so that kind of gives you a sense of really how unprepared I was for this meeting. I actually left that meeting and ended up accepting a job with Todd Oldham, who had been my favorite designer at the time. Went out and celebrated, and then got a call the next day to come back to meet Anna. And I said, "I already have a job." And Bucky basically said, "No, you're coming in to meet Anna." So I went, and the funny thing is, I wasn't intimidated. I always say, to people on my podcast, it's like people think knowledge is power, but in a way, it can be the opposite, right?
mm,
Because I didn't have any anxiety that was, kind of suffocating me, and like we talked earlier, when that comes into play, it's hard to get your thoughts straight, and you're not being your authentic self, and so
mm-hmm.
many this fear voice is
Yeah.
is really overpowering who you are.
Mm,
So I really think that is probably why I was hired. I
mm,
really do, because very quickly you realize you don't last in that environment working for someone like Anna if you're scared.
mm-hmm.
She wants you to question. She wants you to feel, you know, to feel conviction in what you're suggesting. We all kind of have a beat there, and she relies on us to not be yes men, and to push her as well. So if you're scared, you're going to get eaten alive. If you're
Mm,
intimidated, if you're
mm,
weak, it's a sign of
mm,
weakness to her. So I do think, you have to be confident, think on your feet, trust yourself, and in a strange way, that naivety created a confidence in that meeting.
mm.
And I was interviewing to be her first assistant, so you definitely need that. And I people would, you know, the people that lasted as her assistant lasted. She could tell right away in the first week if you couldn't, or you could tell if you couldn't last. So I think, looking back, it's exactly that idea of being in the right place at the right time, but only because I was open, to walk into a room I didn't even fully understand and say yes, and just say
No,
yes.
and totally rightly so, because I totally resonate with you. A lot of opportunities, come your way if you're open-minded, and then a lot of things happen when you've not planned, because I genuinely believe
Right.
that the universe has something better planned for you, which in your, knowing sense or visibility or that radius which you have, the radar, you can't sense it. But
Yeah.
something very, very interesting that yes, most people can't even survive a day, and
Yeah.
you thrived, and how, and for more than 20 years. So that itself is stunning and very impressive. And
Stockholm syndrome.
yes, yes. So looking back, Jill, what do you think, which are your three qualities which you think, or the three skill sets you owe your entire career to, which apart from just preparing, we've already established that, but anything which you think you possess those some three qualities which actually made you who you are today and how successful you are today, um, if you can share that. And also, I just wanted to know that when did you realize, since you were not interested into fashion, and when did you realize that you fell in love with not just the numbers, but images
Yeah.
and storytelling through the magazine?
Yeah, starting with kind of images. I've always been a visual person. As I was saying, even math is visual. I mean, you've seen A Beautiful Mind, right?
Yeah,
You know,
love that.
right. So that kind of
Yes.
gives you a sense when you're solving these equations, looking at. I mean, I always said I wanted to see someone do an exhibition at the Guggenheim of the prime number theory, and start with, you know, the question, right? And then have the whole walk down to the bottom be a blackboard and have chalk for people, and people can try to do it.
Solve
And
it. Yeah.
that's art, right? That
Yes,
to me.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I was kind of talking about negative space, that when I look at the skyline or out my window, I see the blue as buildings and a concrete sky. So, that's visually when I look, and I take pictures of it all the time. My daughter's like, keep walking, Mom, because I do want to do a painting, and I have the canvases and everything, and I have a perfect image where, again, where I flip it upside down, and the the
No
the
way.
sky, because if you can look out the window now, you can see shapes if you visualize the sky as the front foreground, and the buildings and trees in the background. So, that's kind of how I've always kind of been. So it's not that I fell in love with images at a specific moment. It's just kind of how my brain works. I connect more with seeing a play than reading a book. Or when I'm reading, I'm casting it in my head. I already see a character. So that's why I can get distracted in my mind when I read, because I'm visualizing the book. If you can
Yeah.
understand that. And
Yeah.
it's always been about what I see and how it makes me feel. So thinking about qualities, I mean, I've always been a driven child. I do not give up when something's hard. I don't give in to fear. I don't take no for an answer. If I believe in something, I fight for it. Everyone in the industry knows I don't take no for an answer. Everybody. And there's no shame in my game about pushing, pushing, pushing until I get it. And giving into fear, I mean, I use the analogy or the metaphor of a roller coaster. I'm scared of roller coasters, but I will force myself to ride it, because what will stay with me longer is the fact that I gave into my fear. Being on that roller coaster, what? The longest it's going to be is 2 minutes. The disappointment in myself for giving into that fear will
Good
haunt me for
lifetime.
weeks. So that even goes with, going to college. That was very conservative, and I was going in there wearing Betsy Johnson catsuits. We're in the poorest county in New York State. Everyone's in hiking boots and flannels. You think it was comfortable going out with a Betsy Johnson catsuit, a blazer, and one of those ankle cowboy boots to the Old Stone Jug? No, but I would look in the mirror and I would say, you are not conforming to things or people you don't respect. Just do it, or don't go out. But you're not buying a flannel and hiking boots. Let's just put it that way. So, you know, it's that drive. I used to pack my bag before school, lay out my clothes every night when I was a child. You know, it's a drive, determination, never taking no for an answer, and don't give in to your fears. Period.
Amazing. Amazing. And I'm also like you, I do not hear no as an answer. No just doesn't register into my
No.
system because I've heard so many no's in my life than yeses while growing up. And because you're a woman, because you're a woman of color, because I've worked into financial services where it's highly male dominated, you're the only
Mm,
person in the room. And every point in time, I had to struggle and fight. So if I would have heard no and sat
yeah,
there, I would not be here for sure.
right. Yeah.
So,
And trust your instinct. So I would
yeah,
say I trust my instinct, I don't give up, and I don't let my fear make my decisions.
love that.
Concise.
Amazing. And something very, very interesting that you hired Lauren Weisberger, who actually wrote Devil Wears Prada
And I
book.
never lived it down.
But you're still mentioned on the page 21, which
Yeah.
is insanely amazing. So beyond the cinematic, lines, the Curdio lines and, the designer bags and the most, glamorous side of the magazine, can you share that, what is the most unglamorous or part of being an assistant to the most powerful woman in media, which movie also completely missed, or we do not know from an outsider's point of view, which you have lived?
Well, it's they. Everyone probably knows that at least that works in editorial. The hours and the pay. So that's the part. I mean, they don't like to talk about. But when I started, the pay was very low. I came in as Anna's assistant, and because I stayed, the incremental increases or raises per position, I was, you know, what they do is you get a promotion, and sometimes it's the title, not the money.
Yeah, yeah. And just
So,
beating the
it's
inflation, basically.
yeah, yeah. So, people always said to me, if you want to make more money, you have to leave and come back. And I was like, why would I want to leave? Like, I felt like I should get paid more because I'm loyal, you
Mm-hmm.
know? But that was something, it was what it was. And until I got married and had a child, it was just me. So it wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
and the expense account, once I was an editor
Sure.
and I was the entertainment editor, so I always had to entertain. Um, that kind of balanced it out. But,
Mm-hmm.
as an assistant, there was little tricks like I would do. We got $10 for lunch, and we never could leave our desks. And I was told by the assistant who trained me, who was leaving, that Anna didn't like the smell of food. So I had to be strategic. So I found a coffee place, and this is 350 Madison. There's a
Uh-huh.
coffee place that had protein shakes. So and I even told Leslie Fremar, who I ended up hiring when the first junior who I was with for a bit had left. Anna doesn't like the smell of food. She went to the cafeteria and got a hamburger. I'm like, no, so when I had her on, I said, I hope you got more from me than an eating disorder and an ulcer. But so then I could take my $10 and get a sandwich. I get the biggest sandwich I could get. So that'd be the sub roll. And then if I was hungry later in the day, if we stayed like till 7, I could have half of it, and then I could have the other half, for dinner when I got home. So that's kind of how I dealt with the money thing. And in terms of hours, I mean, you're always on call. But I had been that way with my two other bosses when I worked at the Creative Artists Agency. I mean, the hours I was getting in, probably 7:30 there too. And I went to work out before. So I would sleep in my gym clothes and then go to a 5:30 a.m. spin class, shower at the gym, and I could get to CAA, for 7:30. And for Anna, the first assistant was 6:45, 7, and I was in 7:30. So,
My
I
God.
was kind of used to that. But the only day I knew she wouldn't call through my 20 years was Christmas Day. Otherwise, I booked Rachel Weisz's November cover while I was being wheeled into foot surgery because I'd broken my ankle. And my mom had to grab the phone out. I
No
was getting
way.
dental surgery, and Anna called, and I was like, take it out. I got to answer this. So it's not glamorous, but it's a level of discipline and commitment that most people don't see. But it trains you in a way nothing else can. It's people call it Vogue University. It's really Anna University because working in her office trains you in a way that I need an assistant now that has worked for Anna, or I want to clone myself because I have a level of expectation from people who work for me that Anna had when I worked for her. And that's just, because I expect people to be thorough, detail oriented, proactive, to anticipate everything before it happens, read my mind like I read Anna's. Like my junior assistant once said, I answered Anna. I sit from my desk because she sits behind us, and I was like, "Oh, Igor's on 42nd and 7th Avenue." And my junior said, "Anna didn't ask you anything. She just said Jill." But Anna said, and I go, "Yeah, she asked me where's Igor because she said thank you." And Libby goes, "She didn't say anything. She said Jill." But that's what I expect. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's a very hard standard to meet, but that's the job. So it was the best training and also the hardest for anyone that ever works for me.
I know. I can imagine. But I'm just very curious to know that she is intimidating. She is everything good and bad. But what do you think? I always wonder that how do you command that respect? And what do you think that one thing which makes her different or a legend compared to everyone else in the industry?
I mean, I think she's not afraid to be tough, right? So the thing about her that I learned quickly through personal experience or from just watching her is, when she's at work, it's business. Um, there's no, it's not like she, so this is where people kind of get it twisted with her. She's not intimidating. You're intimidated by her for your own reasons. She just wants the best out of people. That's why the magazine's the best, and it has remained the best since she took over. So, she's direct. One thing would have been nice is to get a good job, Jill, or you were right about Adele, or, you know, or an admission that I had pitched Kim Kardashian with North and Kanye, and but whatever. You take your ego out of it. The only time your work is acknowledged is if something went wrong, and that's you never get used to that. You think if you do it even better next time, you're gonna get that great job, Jill, but you don't. You
Yeah,
don't.
yeah.
But that's because there's no time for that. She's not there to pat your back. She's not there to, you know, stroke your ego. It's work, and that's what it is. And things happened, but not to say she's not very caring, and that comes outside of office hours. I think that gave her the ability to not make decisions based on emotions, which it's hard for people to understand that. But in the end, that's what has made her so successful. And women tend to be more emotional, right? And she is working in a male dominated world of publishing, and she's risen through the ranks above many men. And that's how generally men work. They don't
Yeah,
make emotional decisions. So,
absolutely.
she was raised by her father. I mean, her mother as well, but I'm just saying she's following in the footsteps of her father, who is a business. It's business. And that is a good way of thinking about it. My best friend, Karen Mulligan, works for Annie Leibovitz and has a year longer than I worked at Vogue. And we did a lot of work together. That's how we met. We could have an argument about work, and then I could call her at lunch and talk about what we're going to do the next night. We compartmentalize, and I
Sure,
learned that from her. And
sure.
it is hard, especially with this generation now, who need mental breaks, who need, it's hard for them to work for me because it was a totally different time, and I'm already been trained to take emotion out of business decisions. So that's something, that extreme nature of what Gen Zers expect, is it's hard because you can, sorry to sound harsh, but that's what your friends and family are for. It's not for me, to do that. Not to say you have to be insensitive. Obviously, you have to be sensitive, but focus on the work at hand and make decisions that are the best for the company, that in the end will be the best for the employees.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And what I read is that basically there is nothing personal against you
Right.
as a human,
Absolutely.
but it's your efficiency at work which you have to deliver, which is expected on the scale of 1 to 10. So you cannot be a 9.5.
Right.
And also having said this, when you as a receiver, when you work for Anna or somebody like you, if I would put my personal ego aside, that, Binoli, okay, some God's gift to mankind, I can
Yeah.
keep that at home. But when I enter office, I just need to shed that off and,
Exactly.
yeah. So I think
Yeah, and
it's a
and
very
it's
wise
also
thing.
about she puts in that work. She is there before anyone else.
Really,
She
every day.
stays. When I worked for her, that's why we were in so early, because she was in at 8. So it's not like she's expecting things from us that she doesn't do. When she's calling me on weekends, it's because she's working and she needs me to do something. So, you know, she's putting in this amount of effort, time, and passion. She expects that from the people she hires. And if you don't have that, then you just shouldn't be there. And if you can't take it, then you shouldn't be there.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but it will make you, you will learn from her to be the best version of yourself in a workplace situation, um, than working for anyone else.
And that also
That's
perhaps transpires into you being a stronger person in your personal life as well, right? Because life is not that rosy. We're gonna have some obstacles, and then ultimately that also makes you stronger, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's also amazing. And uh, but something very cheeky I want to ask that
yeah,
even in the movie we see the most amazing closet where
yes.
you get all these Chanels and Gucci's and everything in between. And I have been to a Vogue pop-up store in Bombay where they used to have the sample, sales and those items at like a
Mm.
throwaway prices. And we literally used to, queue outside. And believe you me, and I'm guilty of that, that I have bought things just because it was cheaper. The heels which were never comfortable, the
Yeah,
outfits which I never could fit
I'm that
my.
person. My friends say just because it's free, Jill will take anything free.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, and my friend and I would just wonder that the amount of things we've got, I wonder how many things are either fitting or practical enough,
yeah,
but they were so beautifully available at like a dirt
yeah.
cheap prices. So I want to genuinely know that what happens to the leftover designer goodies or outfits, and because that's like really, really well preserved gowns or archival accessories. So, do you guys also get to wear them, use them, take away, or but the remaining stuff, what happens to that?
Well, I'll first answer the question. It kind of, is it real, like how it's depicted? The closet was real.
Oh, really?
I mean, think about it. When Lauren wrote that book, it was when it was from back, what was that? I was leaving, that was late 99, right? That's when she left because
Yeah.
I started June 98. I was being promoted in December 99. So that's around the time. So that's the heyday of, I mean, that's our golden age of Vogue. So this was at 4 Times Square. So I had started with Anna at 350 Madison, and then we moved to 4 Times Square. And,
Yeah.
I was with Anna for a bit at 4 Times Square before I was promoted. But when I first started, the closet was pretty small at 350 Madison. It was chaotic and run by my dear friend, Mr. Brian Coates, who worked in the closet and also assisted Andre Leontali.
Okay.
And the closet was where we'd go gossip and smoke. Yes, we would smoke in the closet. And so if Anna went to see Mr. Newhouse, I knew how long that would probably take her to go up to the executive floor, right? So I had time to either smoke half a cigarette or go to the bathroom. And I always chose smoke. And I would go in there. And, it was the best. Like, and Brian got the best tea because everyone would circulate through the closet. And
Closet.
people
Yeah.
like Paul Kavaka, I mean, when I had him on, that's where he did all of his work, was in the closet, smoking with the music on. He'd work on forms. A lot of the Vogue editors, he came from Harper's. A lot of the Vogue editors didn't work on forms like he did. They worked on fit models, but that would all happen in the closet too. Until someone at Brides left, didn't put out her cigarette all the way or put it in a cup with just a little water or coffee at the bottom, and a wedding dress caught on fire. And then we were no longer able to smoke in the building, and it was horrible. But it wasn't until we moved to 4 Times Square that we were able to help design that building. Not me, but that building went
Sure.
up. And we were there from the beginning, right? We were one of the first tenants, I believe. Same with One World Trade, but that was a way to get people to, to move into Times Square, to build up Times Square. It was a dangerous place. A lot of porn shops put some, Disney
Yeah.
posters in the windows, clean it up for tourists, make it be a place people wanted to visit. And Bloomberg did a lot of that. But that's when we had a huge closet. I mean, it wasn't as big as One World Trade, but it was 3 times the size. That's where it was like color coded bags, and that's where like the girls that ran it, a lot of them were interns. It would be these small drawers of sunglasses. You come to work, you forgot your sunglasses, go into the closet. Like, it's all organized by style, shape, color. If you get a rip in your nylons, go in there. It's by size, sheerness, opaque, brown, like
Wow.
every single color. And that's where I would go, for the Met Gala. I don't do many red carpet things. Like the Met Gala, I needed shoes, I needed I go to Virginia Smith. She's like, go see the girls in the closet. They take a picture. I didn't walk away with the stuff, but, you're able to at least borrow things. The stuff in the closet, other than the bags and all the accessories, any undergarments, all there, a lot of different shoes, that would be things that maybe we called in that, a sample that they didn't need back. But, the gowns, the clothing that was in there was called in for shoots. We'd have basics that anyone could have if you needed a white button down, things that people could take for their shoots. But it'd be racks of clothes with Grace's name on it, with Tawny's name on it. That's where we stored everyone's racks and where we did all the fittings. So of course everyone, loved it when they came, and you could try on some crazy things. Like, I ended up trying on these, like, just for fun during a fitting. I think Adele's fitting. These latex boots in red that were flats that went all the way up to mid thigh. And I was like, I kind of like these. So I asked the girls if they'd call the designer to see if I could keep them. And they said yes.
Aw.
So stuff like that you could kind of, you could borrow and maybe take home, but always with permission. But yeah, everyone always wanted to see the closet. I mean, nowadays, I honestly, someone just told me the other day that the closet is all propped out now, that it's not real, that it's just like, it's kind of like when you go into a bakery and the cakes are fake, but they look real. Like, evidently, that's what it's like now. So I did have the glory days when it actually looked like the movie.
I'm sure. And I want you to sell those things on Vestiaire or Vintage, and I will buy. So you,
Yeah, they
you
would do they would do Beauty Closet was amazing too. The
really.
Beauty Closet was awesome, and Sarah Brown, the beauty director for years, was so generous with us because they'd have tons of stuff, and if they weren't needing it for a future story, because you don't send the beauty products back to the
Sure,
company,
sure.
so I
And they
could go in
expire as
there.
well, right? You can't
Yeah,
like,
they had so many. I mean, it was awesome. Like, if something happened that day and you needed cover up, or you needed this or that, that was the most fun. And it was
um,
locked, so you'd have to like go in there. But they'd have beauty closet sales and fashion closet sales. So same with Allure. Allure, they would send it around to everyone that there was an Allure beauty closet sale, where they were cleaning out everything
oh my
that was
God.
in there. So that was fun.
Oh my God, I'm enjoying this so much because I love fashion. And I don't know if I mentioned that to you. I wanted to become a fashion designer. And when I was growing up, all my life, I've actually made outfits from scratch. I've designed,
Wow.
wrote, from my mom's saris. I've literally done from, literally designed, gone out, got accessories. And and not for just my mom, for my
Yeah.
friends and family and everybody. So everyone was like, oh my God, you are a perfect candidate. But I don't know, I think I just loved math and I just loved everything. I was a bit nerd. From the closet to the carpet, I want to move to the Met Gala, which is one of the world's most watched fashion events,
Yeah.
and I particularly wait. So it generates around $200 million of impact every single year.
So
So
wow.
it is like a pure magic from outside, but since you've had the first-hand experience of being an insider, I really want to pick your brain from the planning of the theme to what it really matters, or what goes behind, and how do you also manage to be on the guest list is always my question. And how many people are there, and is there a story you which you have witnessed, which never came into the press, but which something very
Oh,
impressive or
I
something really
don't
funny?
know. I didn't put a lot of thought into this one because maybe because I have a mental block on it. Well, the theme is something we're never a part of. That's, Andrew Bolton is really the one, right? Because he's the curator. Um, when, but I will say we start talking about next year's Met a week after the Met.
Really,
Like,
almost a year.
yeah, but it'll be probably, until they get the theme. She'll get the theme, and it's pretty kept secret. I mean, she'll tell us, the stakeholders at the magazine, and that's going to be Sylvana Soda Ward forever. Um, Durrett, Sylvana Durrett. I'm using her maiden name, but then we start discussing the host. So the first thing is who's going to host it. And back in the day, it was really one person. So I remember a Met where Diana Ross performed. I sat next to Jimmy Fallon, and it was Tom Ford, I believe, and Nicole Kidman. And it was in a whole different area of the museum. It was very small.
Mm.
It grew and grew each year, but the only thing that really stayed the same was smoking in the smoking in the bathroom. That's a theme right now. Um, so and that would be tied into, okay, so there's always a brand underwriting, right? So if it's not a brand, later it turned into, it could have been a company. Now it's two individuals who are underwriting it. But so that brand, we'd have to be connecting someone to the brand. So couldn't be someone that was with a different brand. But think about this: when I started on it, we're talking 99, 2000. It had been going on for years, obviously, since Diana Vreeland. But when I started it, I think it was Tommy Hilfiger and rock and roll or something like that. Like I've been to 15, 16 Mets. I would, I always wore Lanvin pretty much, so I can remember my outfits. I just don't remember which theme it was.
Sure.
But it would, at that time, people didn't have these huge brand deals. It wasn't like they had maybe friends of the house, Nicole Kidman, with Tom Ford, but then she was never officially an ambassador to him at the time. And that must have been with Gucci. That must have been Gucci days. And then her with Chanel because she was close to Carl, but we did Kate Blanchett with Nicolas Ghesquière. She wasn't Vuitton, but it was almost putting people together. It would be great if there was a film that they had coming out because then we could tie it all into a cover. So at first we didn't have a cover. The Make cover wasn't the Met cover at the beginning. That ended up happening. So when I'm booking the host, I'm thinking the cover as well. So I think that started maybe with Katy Perry. I know we did a cover with Taylor Swift when she hosted. So there, and I remember that because this is where I start going on tangents. I warned you. So when we were shooting that cover, we were obviously shooting it 3 months before the Met. Amazing Shy, hairdresser Shy. He's just like brilliant with Matt and Marcus and Tani. They did a wig for her, a short, it wasn't straight. It was a little messy, kind of a rocker vibe bob, and it had a bang, and she loved it, and that was the cover. So Taylor wanted to actually cut her hair like that, but Anna said she couldn't cut her hair like that until the Met because that's when the cover was coming out. So it couldn't look like we
Oh
that
yeah, you've
she cut her
done
hair
three
and
months
then we
before.
did the cover because people aren't thinking, oh, you would have shot that. And Anna goes, and if you're going to cut it, then you can't be out and about anywhere until the Met. The Met has to be the first time people see your new hair because we will have just released the cover at the same time. So, but then, so once we kind of get the host, remember at the beginning it was one person, then it got to be a male and a female. I think the first time that might have happened was maybe with Bradley Cooper, who it's funny because I couldn't even get him invited to the Met when I was dating him. I got him there eventually as my date, but then he ends up hosting. And I couldn't get him in the magazine. Anna's like, Bradley, who? I'm like, Cooper. I mean, granted, he was doing The Hangover, which wasn't exactly a Vogue film, but then we would think about the performer, and that was I booked Bruno, I booked Janelle Monáe and Bruno to do the after party because I just met Bruno and I was putting him in the magazine. We got Kanye West, we got The Weeknd, we got Florence and the Machine, we had Gaga, which is the story. It's probably been told, but Anna, I have the cards of her going away speech for me. And she mentions it, how I had to get Gaga out of her dressing room. Oprah was one of the hosts that year. And Gaga she was having stage fright or something. She wouldn't come out. It was time for her to perform and she wouldn't come out.
Oh my
So I
God.
had to go back into the dressing room and try to get her out. And I don't remember all the details, but there was someone I was on the phone with her team, her manager, and it was like, we need to get her out of the dressing room. And we had to find the right person who could talk her out of the spiral she was having. So we were able to get this friend of hers who could talk to her on the phone. They did a prayer circle and she ended up
Really?
coming out.
Oh
But,
my God.
Anna was finding me at my table like, we need you. And I'm like, oh my God, I thought usually once everyone arrives, my job's done. I'm a
Wow.
guest now. And it was like, no, 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 you're not a guest. But that was probably one of the crazier moments. But other than that, it's a well-oiled machine. You know, it's like this, like any Anna Wintour production. Everything's planned to the T, and it's like a military operation, and there's never really been any hiccups because of all the time that's put into it before the day.
So apart from just having money or interest in fashion, what really gets someone to be on the guest list of the Met Gala?
I mean, we first, start with the Vogue talent, right? So, automatically, if you've been on a cover, you're on the list. She always wants a surprise, someone, unexpected, as she'd say. One year I got Tim Tebow to come. He had just come to the Jets, I believe, and that was a big deal. And I actually got him in the magazine. I love sports, so comes up later. Like that's where I'm starstruck is with athletes. So that was kind of a surprise to see him. For people, that unexpected nature. I'm trying to think who else she just wants us to think outside the box. We've had definitely athletes. I remember another time, this definitely has not been talked about. It was the year that the Giants beat my Patriots. And they were having Eli Manning, at the Met. So we're talking just 2 months after the Super Bowl. He was kind of like the guest of honor in a sense because of beating the Patriots, my team. So
Yeah.
he was going to be kind of introducing the night. And I can't remember who was mayor at that time, but it was them in tandem. It might have been Bloomberg, but we'll have to. I have a great memory, but I can't remember everything. And Anna
Okay.
said, we need someone to introduce Eli Manning. And, at this point, Giselle and Tom Brady had come every year. She asked me to ask Tom to
Oh,
introduce Eli. I'm like, that is never happening.
happening. Yeah.
Never. She goes, Jill, please. Like, I'm
Make
like,
it happen.
I don't even want to ask him. He's my guy, So, yeah, no, he was not doing it. I mean, I don't, I think, to be honest, like, I think when I called his agent, like, it was just like, there was no way he was asking Tom, like, to do that. I was surprised he was even going to still come, but I did watch him. I was seated near them, and I watched him while they were introducing Eli, and he was cool as a cucumber. Listen, he had Giselle on his lap, like,
Wow.
and he went on
And
to
she
win many
won.
more. So yeah, he went on to win. He had enough rings. He didn't have enough fingers for that one. So yeah, that was another thing. But
Love
yeah, we
that.
just kind of put the list together. It's also about making sure designers have their muses, and we did a lot of placing talent with different designers that maybe didn't have a table, like Vera Wang or Tory Burch, or helping the other tables fill their tables, like the year that that H&M went and bought a table and actually made custom red carpet pieces. And I actually sat at that table with Odell Beckham Jr., who was a friend at the time. And, it was just trying to make sure everyone has talent, right? And that everyone feels excited that they have the table that has a star, and, just make sure the room is really balanced. So,
Yeah. So how many
there's
people are
there's a
there?
lot of seats. So a lot of people,
How many? How many people?
oh, I mean, it's grown and then it's shrunk and it's grown. I don't even know. That one, it went around, that one video where she says, "Don't bury this table," and you can see my
Yeah.
my name.
Really?
That was yeah, because it was the was Janelle at our table? Yeah, Janelle was at our table. I got Odell Beckham Jr. at the table. We had the designers of Public School there. We had Pat McGrath there. We had, yeah, so it was that type of thing. That was H&M's first time going, and she just wanted to make sure that they weren't pushed back into the corner. But yeah, that's everyone always sends it to me every year around the Met. I'm sure I'll get it sent to me again. Where people that little
I'm gonna
clip
look it
does,
up.
yeah,
I'm
that
gonna look
little
it up
clip
for sure.
starts circulating.
And speaking of Anna, Jill, she actually praised your sixth sense, one of the very rare compliments she would have
Right.
given you,
On
perhaps.
my way out. On
Yeah,
my way out.
true. So, but she did mention that, and I'm sure you booked Adele's, first cover right before she actually swept the
Yeah.
Grammys, and also you fought for Lady Gaga before she was a household name to be on the cover. So, and this is not luck, this is not a coincidence when you do it repetitively. So, how did you balance the clinical data or hard facts also went out of your way to actually recommend things which you believed in? And so, how did you even develop that sort of confidence to go behind your instinct and ultimately, put the proof of the pudding out there in the market?
But it's the math mind. I mean, it really is. You can look at all the data, sales number, past performances, which we had at that time. We had a research division, but it only tells you what has already worked, right? That's what it tells you, what worked last April. It doesn't tell you what's about to happen. That's where instinct comes in. Met when I met people like Adele early on, there was something undeniable. It's a feeling you can't really explain it. It's how it made me feel to meet her, right? So um, it made me feel excited, and you can't really explain it. And I wasn't exactly a music person. I knew how her music, she was playing me on an iPod in my office, made me feel listening to it. But again, it's personal. Like, that's why when you say best song of the year, to who? To that group of people? Like, that it's very hard to quantify,
Sure.
and it's also hard because there's so much behind the music industry, how a song becomes a hit. It's not because the song is a hit. It's because they paid certain amount of radio stations to play it, so you're listening to it in every you know,
On a repeat
Seven
mode.
Eleven you walk into, every cab you're in, like,
Yeah.
so there's so much involved. So it's a personal thing as it is, but
Yeah.
you feel it. Same with Lady Gaga. And it's always a balance. So, you have to trust your instinct because data follows, it doesn't lead. So that's where instinct
No,
is
I love
key. And
that.
then you just pray,
So,
because you're betting on someone
hmm,
and you're convincing
yeah,
someone. And there's a bit of smoke and mirrors in that too.
yeah,
I didn't know she was going to win that, but
yeah,
I just put it out in the universe. Like, we'll be coming out when she's going to be taking home six, but
yeah,
at that point, so when we're having this conversation,
mm,
we're talking December.
mm,
So I don't even know what the nominations are yet.
mm, mm.
But
No,
I'm
I hear you.
saying it in a very convincing way too.
No,
And then
absolutely. You got
getting
to
down on
believe.
my knees, getting down on my knees and praying.
And speaking of that, you've booked 300 Vogue covers, which is incredible. But I want to actually go under the hood from the inspiration to the execution because I always wonder that apart from just the trend, what's going on, and if somebody has won the Wimbledon, then of course you're going to have those winners. But how do you actually decide who gets on the cover? And also, like we just discussed, that is it good to just not double down on what's already working rather than going behind or doing some trend which doesn't exist at the moment, but that could be next big thing. So
Yeah.
how does the entire process work?
It's definitely harder to pitch a new person, 100%. It's easy to fall back on the people sell. And
Mm,
remember, I knew how people sold in the past.
mm,
That went away, right?
yeah.
That went away after a couple years. I no longer even had visibility on sales numbers of the covers I booked last
Okay.
month.
Okay.
But that's the challenge, which is the fun part. If a magazine calls me right now and asks me, and this happens all the time, we would love you to come book for us. I will ask who are the type, give me your wish list of covers.
Mm,
If I see Dua Lipa, if I see Jennifer Lawrence, if I see, it's like, no, been there, done that.
mm,
That's why I love these international titles I work with now. I love Audrey Nuna. I've been following her since the beginning. For Vogue
mm,
Singapore to let me cast her for a cover, that's
mm,
fun. It's fun
mm.
supporting these talented people that are overlooked, that
Yeah.
don't have enough followers, that haven't, I don't know. But you know what? Audrey Nuna doesn't care. She would be there if she
Yeah.
wanted to be. She's there. It's just, you know what I mean? She is there.
Yeah.
But she's not gonna
She
go
doesn't need
around trying.
validation. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
giving validation to those who deserve it is more
Mm,
fun than, yeah, of course you want Dua Lipa, but
yeah.
I don't need to do a fourth cover with Dua Lipa. That's just not something. First of all, you're not going to get her. So, and,
And does the
you know,
magazine pay to these people to be on the cover?
no,
Oh,
no.
okay.
But yeah, so that the part I've always loved was pitching someone new, especially if it was someone Anna didn't know yet. Like trying to get Beyonce or Rihanna on the cover for the first time when music wasn't even something we really covered. Same with
Hmm.
television. We didn't do Jennifer Aniston until she did The Good Girl, that film.
Mm. Okay.
It was just something we didn't do. We did Sarah Jessica, but HBO didn't feel like television, right? So,
Yeah.
that it was very specific television she touched. And of course, we didn't even do Sarah Jessica until a couple seasons in. I was
Mm.
still at CAA working for Sarah Jessica Parker's team. I
Wow.
remember when we sent her the
Uh-huh.
script for Sex and the City. So
Yeah.
that's how far back,
Really?
that even
Oh.
started. But so you know, you're not just pitching a cover, you're convincing her that this person is going to become huge without really
Mm.
knowing it. And my
Mm.
thinking was always, if we don't get them first, someone else will. And
Mm.
that's not to say Anna would constantly tell me, we're not there to break out someone. I'd go to Sundance and I'd leave a movie like with Ryan Gosling, The Believer, in the middle of the film. Excuse me, pardon me, excuse me. And I'd call the publicist to book him without any approval, like from Anna. No, I just did it. And, we were the first to have him in the magazine just because I was like, he's going to be huge. I just know it. I need him. And he was
Yeah.
just like, he had just come off like Mickey Mouse Club. It was like hilarious on that shoot, like thinking back on it now. But we didn't want, if she became a Harper's girl, like I would hear she's two Harpers, like then let's not let Dakota Johnson do Harper's first. We know 50 Shades of Grey is coming out. They have the audience built in. Doesn't even matter if it's good or not. It's going to be a box office hit. Dakota had already, I think Glamour wanted her. And I had to I kind of stole her. And I was saying to Anna, we got to get her first. Then she's a Vogue girl, you know. And then what do I do? Then what's going to happen is if she does Harper's or Elle, sorry, Harper's and Elle, but the cover's not going to be great. And then she's going to say, oh, that girl. And I'm like, so let's do her right. Then she becomes ours,
Yeah.
right? She's a Vogue girl. So what I did was Anna wasn't convinced, even on the material, right? It's just 50 Shades of Grey was not a Vogue film or an Anna Wintour film at all. But so I was able to kind of make a deal with Glamour, and I had this whole thing. I was on the way to getting on an airplane when I'm booking this, by the way. And so I said, I had to set it all up that she would say yes and that I could undo these other offers that she had before I brought her into Anna. Then what I did was I dressed her for meeting Anna, called
No
Jason Wu.
way.
Like,
Really?
called Jason Wu. She went in for a fitting, a little cigarette pant, a flat, a colorful sweater, but just something not too crazy, natural face, no makeup. Trust me, that's a whole thing. Like, do not wear foundation. Like, she's having to envision you on the cover. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Anna barely wears makeup. Like, just no one really wears a lot of makeup there. So then I have her come in. She's great. We book her on the cover. Then it's Edward Barsimian's turn. He's now going to be doing street style on her. Let's build it up so that when she appears on the cover, our reader knows her already, right? So we're building up to this cover, but it's backwards, right? So
Sure.
we've booked the cover. Now we have to get everyone ready for it, type of thing. Um,
Got it.
so that's kind of how that worked. We were creating that moment for her, for a reader, but at the same time, there was a whole other layer to it, which was the math. So we tested covers. We had circulation numbers. Subscribers were constant. It was the newsstand sales that told you who really sold, right? So when I finally got Angelina on the cover, after a lot of convincing, by the way, she sold incredibly well. So well that the publishing side then would sell ads for next April based on the sales numbers of Angelina's April. Okay, so that meant I had to beat my own numbers for next April.
Got
And
it.
I would say the only person that's going to sell as well as Angelina is Angelina. So I'm moving my own goalpost farther.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're constantly, looking at this puzzle and trying to figure out how it works. It's a full year, 12 months, mapping it out. Who are our big sellers? So that's going to be more commercial people, right? Because if you put someone, I know this is a long answer, it's complicated, but if you put someone like Drew Barrymore on the cover, so someone walks by a newsstand, they might never buy Vogue because they think Vogue isn't for them, right?
Sure.
That they can't afford what's in there. They're not the reader, but they see Drew Barrymore. They might buy the magazine for the first time and see it is for you. And
Yeah.
by that point, we also moved down the price point of things in the magazine. We weren't going to go over a certain amount of money, and we did more, different stories that had more affordable things, like trying to make it more attainable. It's still aspirational, but there's also things that you can relate to, right? So then we build up our reader with these more commercial people like a Sandra Bullock, Deborah Messing, Drew Barrymore, and with commercial movies. And then we get people to actually look inside the magazine. They can become, future readers or subscribers. So that's kind of how we did it. But that was a balance, and that would allow me, if I had a Drew Barrymore, to get a Kate Blanchett. less known, because people sell if you love them or hate them. If you're neutral to them, they're unlikely to sell. You have to say, what, Angelina Jolie, let me see what this bitch is saying about Jen. Then you buy it. Or, oh my God, I love Jen Aniston, and you buy it.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of the thing. So it becomes this, I always think of it as Minority Report when Tom Cruise is like moving things around, because it is a puzzle. You have to
Yeah.
have a balance. Then diversity comes into play later. So that's a whole other kind of balance. But you can only control so much. One movie moves, it bumps everybody, right? So that happened. Lady
Yeah.
Gaga, Stars Born, moved, like, I forget where it used to be. I think it was March, and it bumped to November. So that moves, I have it all lined up. So now how do I, but you know what? Everything ends up working out. One other movie moves up, it all, and I'm just like, phew. But it's a moving puzzle. Um, and what I learned is, don't stress. It's going to work out. It always has in the past. Why would that change now? And just pray.
Touche, touche. No, thank you for sharing that version and in the amazing examples. And I was literally living for every pixel of it, and was just literally visualizing how you were
Yeah.
explaining. So thank you. But that really makes me wonder that you have been around the most successful people, most popular people who, one would dream or see in the magazines, from Beyonce to Taylor Swift to Oprah and everyone you just named. And but when was that first time, or have you ever been starstruck? If yes, and then when was it? Uh, and also I always wonder that all these people who you've been, around, and the most incredibly successful, popular, rich people, what is that one common thing you noticed, or one common characteristic you noticed that makes them the high performers?
Well, I've always, as I mentioned, been more starstruck by athletes, especially my Boston players. I think if you think about it, my first job out of college at 22 was at CAA. So I'm buying Nicole Kidman's birthday present. Like, so, not to say I'm jaded, it's just that's my job.
Yeah.
So, and I had one boyfriend I dated. It's like, you're always name dropping. I'm like, I'm not name dropping. If I have a good day, it's because of a celebrity. If I have a shit day, it's because of a
Because of them.
celebrity. Like, that's what I do. It's not
Yeah.
me. So that kind of takes, and you can't be, really. That would be so weird. I guess I'm lucky I'm not. I was never, because, you can be, when we photographed Bono, there's huge respect there. But, we'll get to it. But, my dad was a surgeon. So it's like, I'm not going to, fall to my knees with like a Katy Perry. You know what I mean? But yeah, but Celtics players from the early 2000s, like meeting Kevin Garnett, the Big Ticket, and Paul Pierce, the Truth, when they came from Boston, because I could never put Boston athletes in Vogue. They had to be kind of New York, and I was the one that was even bringing Dwayne Wade and basketball players into the magazine, so it wasn't a natural thing for Anna to be like, LeBron James on the
Yeah.
cover.
Yeah,
That was
let's go for
me.
it.
Like, and he hadn't even won a ring yet. So talk about forward thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously everyone was talking about him. He was 23 or something. Like, he had gotten a speeding ticket on the way to our shoot, which was at the rec center in Akron that he grew up playing in, and being going there after school. So that was just fun. But across the board, whether it's Beyonce, Oprah, Taylor, it's the drive that they have. No one is sitting, taking for granted where they are. They are working to not only get there, that's all of them. Think about Taylor, like how much work she put into her music, and how many sacrifices she made, and her family, when she was young. Like, they don't just get there. Same with Beyonce. These people have been singing and performing since they were children. Like, it was their life. There wasn't like, oh, hey, I'm going to go, play outside with friends in the neighborhood. It was like training, singing, traveling, performing over and over, better and better, drive to keep, to keep getting better, to keep your voice stable, to, there, it's that drive. It's the drive to be successful and to follow their dreams, and nothing is standing in their way. Period.
It's amazing. And I totally resonate with a lot of conversations I've heard, interviews I've heard, especially even athletes, right? Like you mentioning that they do not miss their training even a
No.
day, no matter what's happening. And I
Right.
also, I don't know if you saw this, the Cristiano Ronaldo, when he actually sat and there was a Coca-Cola and he removed it, it was like, what Coca-Cola, just water. And he said that even one day you cannot cheat in terms of what you're eating because that
Yes.
has an impact on your performance. And that
Yes.
day, I was
Look
like,
at Tom Brady, his diet to be able to play as
yeah,
late in life as he did. I mean,
yes,
that's no fun.
no,
But that is pure self-sacrifice. And that's for the team, that's for New England, like all of us.
everyone.
There's no cutting corners. You
Yeah,
can't cut corners and get to where they are. And athletes, listen, you to win an Olympic medal, there is no, I always feel bad for, ice skaters or things that are judged by humans versus serving. It's out or it's in, right? There's no one that's going to say it was out when it was in,
yeah,
bad umpires, whatever. But it's like there that level, Eileen Gu, my girl, like that sacrifice to be the best at that young age and to be brilliant, like you don't get to enjoy what all of us got to enjoy as a child.
I agree.
And that's the sacrifice. It is any sort of normal
Yeah,
childhood
yeah,
or weekend and eating popcorn at a movie.
yes.
She came to Hong Kong for our Hong Kong event for Vogue Hong Kong. She had to train after the
Wow.
event. At 10 p.m., she had to go to the gym. She wasn't going
Unreal.
out. Her mom came out with me.
Yeah,
She went to the gym.
amazing.
So there you
I
go.
was actually watching the making of the Eras tour, right? And that Eras tour just blew my mind away what Taylor had to go through and what she went through. And she was crying at 1 minute, but then she had to go and perform on the
Yeah,
stage.
of
And then
course.
it was like unbelievable. I'm a huge Swiftie. Like
Yeah,
I adore her because what she has accomplished, I haven't seen in front of my eyes someone. And also, she's so authentic in terms of what work she does, but also she's
absolutely.
brought women across the globe. I haven't seen women cheering for a woman in this
Yeah,
capacity, which just blows my mind. And
no, it's true.
she is like an ultimate icon for me.
Yes.
And but speaking of all of these wonderful things, you still decided after 26 years to move out of it and start your own company and agency in 2019, which is incredible. And then today you actually do even more work in terms of more versatile work. Also, you consult global leaders like Neeta Mukesh Ambani. And because I come from India, I
Yeah.
know who she is and how she is and how
She
incredibly
calls me the
powerful
bull. She goes,
she
"You are the bull we needed." And I was like, "Oh my
is.
God." Like someone like her, meeting her was one of those feelings too,
It
you
was
know. But it all comes from, for me to be starstruck, it comes from respect, a deep respect. That's really
what
when
they
I
have
think about
done.
who, yeah, yeah.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
sorry, it's not going to be from a movie role. That's just not,
I hear you.
yeah,
And I lived in Bombay actually before I moved to London. And I'm a Gujarati as well, the community they come from. So I relate a lot of things and I've seen a lot of things up close and person with Bollywood and everything. So Bollywood also doesn't excite me at all
yeah.
because I know a lot of shit that
Priyanka
goes
talks
by.
about that too. Priyanka
Yeah,
Chopra,
yes.
about how just they didn't get to, that's why she came to Hollywood, because she felt like the roles were so in a
Defined.
box. Yeah,
Fine.
exactly.
Yes, yes. And I've been to these Bollywood parties and Diwali and all of them. And then when you interact with them, I'm like, dude, you're not just the person I admired or thought in my
Yeah.
head, because either you are somebody's son or a daughter, or you
Yeah.
were dating someone, just happened to be there. No, I
Although
mean,
I
very
love
talented,
Deepika. Deepika's my girl. I loved getting her on the cover of Vogue too.
unbelievable. She's
So
gorgeous.
nice, so kind, so
And
just love.
self-made, totally
Yeah.
self-made. Yeah. But speaking of Nita Ambani and Her Excellency Sheikha Al Mayasa of Qatar and women like those or celebrities like those, when you actually get to advise them or consult them, how does the entire perspective shift, from just the cover or magazine, from the New York office to a global stage of
Yeah.
cultural philanthropy or something more
Right.
impactful and powerful?
Well, I think there's part of the question about kind of that transition, and I started my own company. Well, it's only me, but after I left US Vogue, and then I was able to consult and take an at-large position with British Vogue and Paper Magazine when Drew Elliott, the incredible Drew Elliott, ran it. So, I was finally getting to see how other places worked, and that was, that's the most interesting thing when you're working for one person for so long and seeing how it's done in other places. Like Drew Elliott on my first day was like, you don't have to dress up. Like we don't, I wear a hoodie every day. And I was asking him questions that made him say to me, you're asking questions from a place that you've been. We don't operate like that. The things you're worried about don't even happen here. It was just little things that I didn't realize. It was kind of like I was asking questions in a way, hoping it would be different, right? So I think the biggest thing I had to unlearn was the idea that what we were doing was the center of everything. So this is where I'm going to talk about my father, who was a burn and trauma surgeon. With growing up with a father you respected so much, who saves lives for a living, it gives you perspective. Um, he was saving lives. I was working at a magazine. I remember saying to him, but Dad, you save lives for a living and I just work at a magazine. And he said, but you provide entertainment for long flights. And I was like, thanks. And he
Oh,
was trying to, tell me, and,
motivate you. Yeah.
but that stayed with me. It made me very aware that what we do, no matter how elevated, it is not life and death. It is not life and death, while many editors thought it was. But that shaped how I approached, people. I never saw the talent that I was casting as commodities. They were human beings, often women walking into a room where they felt vulnerable, excited, but vulnerable, right? Were they good enough? Um, and what I had to do and what I made my mission to do is to make them feel, yes, you are, and make them feel comfortable and beautiful. And, instead of Tawny Goodman was the best editor at this. It wasn't about they're the ones, they're the coat hangers for the look we have to shoot for the cover. We're shooting the person for the cover, not the look. How does she feel in that look?
Wow.
Because when a woman feels beautiful, and you know this as a woman, you radiate confidence. So let's, right off if you want to get the best out of your subject, put them in a safe environment. That's why Mario Testino was so good. Gorgeous, beautiful. Herb Ritz was so good. Beautiful. That kindness, that warmth. Not that, you know, those photographers who take themselves too seriously and don't, they have a picture and you're having to fit into their picture, not the other way
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
And I'll say that working with Edward Enninful at British Vogue was that turning point. So we had planned that I was going to go to work for him. we had to do it the right way, right? So I resigned in October, and then I stayed through the year. I was finishing that big global cover, which wasn't shooting until the end of December, where we were shooting the Jennifer Lawrence of multiple countries. So then I didn't officially start with him till January. And that's where, it was just the two of us making these decisions. Not to say, other people weren't involved, but he trusted me. We had known each other for a while. He trusted my instincts. We weren't polling the audience, which I felt was happening a lot at US Vogue, and that could be a way of making everyone feel important. But it's like, I don't tell you what makeup we should feature. Like, get out of my lane, and
Yeah.
or be informed, right? Like, if you're going to kind of counter what I'm pitching. But he trusted my experience and my instinct, and that was a big shift for me. So, versus having decisions being filtered through layers of people, many of whom didn't really know what they were talking about. So, to be in the environment where my expertise was trusted allowed me to do my job better. And it was empowering. More importantly, Edward used the platform to do something bigger. He did. That was the first time I felt like the work I was doing was more important than I had once thought it was. The impact it could have on culture, on representation, on how people saw themselves, letting people see themselves on a cover.
Yeah.
And this was more important than selling magazines. That carried with me ever since then. So, because when I stepped outside of the world and started looking outside, right? Everyone, you're in a Vogue bubble. You're in walls. You're literally inside a building all day. Being outside of that, working here, working with different clients, seeing different perspectives, learning different cultures. I've gone to Qatar, I've gone to Mumbai. I work with Vogue Singapore, Philippines, Hong Kong, Greece, W China. And it's so interesting. They all are different. You cannot even say, oh, in
Paint with the
Asia,
same
so
brush.
and so's
No,
so and so's popular. No.
no, no.
Singapore, Philippines, Hong Kong,
It's different.
completely different. And, starting to work Sheikha Mayasa, Mrs. Ambani, my definition of luxury completely shifted. Luxury stopped being about access or exclusivity and became about impact, right? And it's about building cultural institutions, supporting creatives, giving designers real opportunities, and bringing people into a culture to experience it for themselves, want to experience. So
She's
I'm
incredible.
hoping,
She's one of
yeah,
my role models and one of
yeah,
my dream list
yeah,
people. When I started the podcast,
yes,
I want to have her maybe one day. But
yes,
I've worked in Reliance as well, but in mutual funds and asset management side.
yeah.
But coming from a very versatile background, I want to know, Jill, that we've spoken about the best parts and the very, very rosy part, most of the rosy parts of the story, but every glossy magazine has a backside too, right? So I want to know if any personal or professional disaster, because everyone's journey has ups and downs, but if you can share one of those incidences where you thought it nearly destroyed you, but in the hindsight, you're very grateful that that happened because it just changed the way you think, look, or maybe the trajectory of your career or your personal life.
I mean, I don't really think in terms of disasters. So something might not go the way I wanted in the moment, but I always found a solution. I think that going back to my father, right? It's perspective, you know. And sometimes people look at me as like with crazy eyes that I wasn't more upset. But if I lost perspective, I don't even know. I had to keep a balance. And that also keeping that perspective helped me emotionally with what you described to not feel that that was a disaster. It was just different. And that became a rule for me early on. Don't go, okay, so here's the thing. You find a solution. Do not go to Anna with a problem if you don't have a solution. My biggest pet peeve, someone running into her office and her calling me, Jill, I just heard, like, Anna wants to see you. Jill, I just heard that Lady Gaga's film moved. Who told you? Like, I don't go into you until I have a solution to present, which isn't just a solution, it's a new cover. So it's not, and everything shifts and moves. Like, I can't let myself, I'd go crazy if I felt it was a disaster every time something moved. So there's always another month coming, right? This isn't a job where you can finish something, pat yourself on the back, punch out. You give yourself a minute and then move on with everything. Let yourself, okay, feel, move on, forward. There's another month coming. If I dwell too much in what's happening here,
Yeah.
all it's
Cut
going to
your
do
losses.
is kill the time I have for there.
Yeah.
So we're all, when the September issue comes out, you're already thinking about March. So keep it moving. Don't dwell. There's nothing good that comes from that except losing time.
Absolutely. Cut your losses and move on. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, in
And don't think
within,
of it as a loss. Don't think of it as a loss.
it's
It's
a
just a
learning.
different gain. It's a different gain.
It's a learning. Absolutely. But speaking of everything, what we're doing right now is through social media and the lens where everyone has an opinion, but everyone has a short-term memory. So any trend will not last more than 48 hours. And I'm sure you know more than me that there's so much of noise. You live in this crazy world right now, but the 2024 studies actually showcase that the average lifespan has cut down to just less than 48 hours for any trend to just sustain and survive. But it stays online forever, right? In the world of TikTok or Instagram. So is the process of identifying talent, or when you consult women like Nita Ambani, has it changed from what it used to be when you were working into a full-time non-social media world?
Well, I wish trends would only last 48 hours because I'm living a trend in real time here for my 10-year-old and Nido. This is what I'm trying to find her, this Nido, and it's been now at least 2 weeks 3 weeks since she came home and said, "This has gone viral. I need Nido." They're almost impossible to find. When you find it online, one time she found it. I was on a big campaign with Stephen Klein, so I said, have your dad, you can use this credit card and buy this Nido. I didn't have time to look at the site. It ended up being a scam, and I had to get a new credit card. They took my number that she plugged in and were charging things. Then
Oh,
she sends me links on Temu. How many fakes have I received, and the disappointment in her eyes when it doesn't have the Nido stamp? And I have to send them back, and I get mad at all these sellers, eBay too. So the only time we found a store, I heard on a shoot, a Cami Marone cover shoot, from a friend who has a kid, that there was a store in Tribeca that sold Nido. So I texted the store because that's how they want it, asked if they had Nido in stock. They did. Took Story there right after school. You could only get 2 Nidos per person. I'd given her cash already in the cab so that we both were 2 Nidos each. Then her tutor was coming over, so I put a disguise on. I put a sweatsuit, my readers, and a baseball cap, and I went back to get 2 more. Yes. So, the disappointment of the fakes when you can't get your daughter this viral trend, I realized something isn't actually what it's presented to be. That's kind of the entire landscape right now, right? It's not real. Okay, so that's not entirely new though. Early in my career, I was told by the studio Miramax that Shipping News, starring I think it was Kevin Spacey and Julianne Moore, was going to be a major Oscar film. Everyone was saying it. I hadn't seen it. They weren't showing it. I convinced Anna, this is going to be an Oscar film. Let's give her a January cover. This will be an Oscar film. It got no nominations. It flopped. And Anna never let me forget it. To the point I had to say, Shipping News is a dead horse, please. Because when I said this is going to be an Oscar film. Like shipping news, Jill. That happened. So I realized people say what they need to say to get their project through. I need to see it for myself. I can't trust anybody. I need to be there and see it. I need to see the Nido. I need to see the movie. And I'll never let Anna see a film I haven't seen already. You know, that's how I approach casting. I wouldn't pitch someone or something unless I believe in that person or that film. My job is to filter, to know what's being presented as the thing versus what is the thing. Same with talent. I need to meet them. I need to see something. I have a lot. People are looking at Vogue to curate the best of the best. Anna's trusting me with my opinion of what's the best of the best. I need to make sure when I say that, I can stand for it, right? And that shipping news situation never happens again. And it didn't. There's a lot of people I said were going to win Oscars that she didn't put on the cover, and they did win Oscars. But I really have to. I can't trust. I can't trust anyone else telling me and put Vogue or Anna in a situation where she has Julianne Moore's great though. She deserved a cover, just not for shipping news.
But Jill, every person would dream of having an access like you do, in terms of every name you just spoke, or every name I can imagine, from George Clooney to like anyone on this planet, right? People would sell their kidneys to be in your shoes, to actually have the access to these human beings. And also because these people are so attractive to be working with or to be associated with, because it comes with a lot of perks apart from, you can imagine. How do you win their trust? Because they have yes people. I'm not going to say men, because men and women.
Yeah.
So they have yes people around them who can actually double down on everything what they say. If there is a night, stars are shining, yes there are, whatever they want to hear. So I want to know, how do you build that trust with those the most powerful iconic people, one to begin with, and what is a trick to just say yes when they want to hear, or you say no when you have a conviction into something, or maybe just being the only person who says something they do not want to hear? How does the entire dynamic works? Because after having worked with Anna, I know for the fact that you don't get intimidated and you're very authentic self. And after speaking with you, I understand. But it's so competitive for somebody like you, because there are like millions of people trying to grab that. So I really am curious that how do you sustain and survive? And what's the secret formula?
Well, everyone talks about access to talent, but the truth is, my relationships, start with the publicists, because it's there's a chain of command too. Everyone has to trust the other person. So the publicist has to trust me before they put their talent in a situation. It could be something like, even as simple, but not simple, very important. We won't ask about Heath Ledger to Michelle. We won't ask about this. They are trusting me. I have to trust the writer. It's these things. Like, it's a negotiation. I always say it's like selling a house. The publicist could want the cover to happen, and I want the cover to happen. Publicist has to convince their client, and I have to convince Anna, and that's going to be negotiating. What's off limits? And you have to do it in a way so Anna doesn't feel like we're not getting something, right? So that's the whole. And then the publicist has to, maybe you won't talk about him, but you can talk about your learnings from that relationship, say Angelina, Brad, or something like that, or Jen Aniston and Brad, all that stuff. So, they're the gatekeepers. They're the ones protecting the talent's time, energy, reputation. So the trust starts there. Early in my career, a very respected publicist Stephen Huvane, who's the brother of Kevin Huvane, who was my boss at Creative Artists Agency, told me right when I got that promotion to entertainment editor off Anna's desk that, make sure that people take your call when it's not Jill Demling from Vogue, when it's just Jill Demling. And, I thought about that. I've talked about it a lot, and that's how much it's set in at that moment and stayed. There's a lot of people that abuse this power, and the power's not theirs. The power is the brand, and the brand is Anna. So it's just not a good look to trade on that anyway, but people do. It's Vogue. You have to do. No. They don't have to do anything. Present it differently, right? And it's all, how you present things as well. I never lied. I didn't overpromise. I was conservative when, I ended up having Anna sign cover agreements. I would say the talent needed a promise that she wasn't going to kill the cover, but I wanted that promise that she wasn't going to kill the cover because I didn't want anything to happen with this trust between me and the talent and the publicist. So, I didn't bring them things that would waste their time. I also hoped they wouldn't do the same. Don't pitch me someone like, I'll speak out of turn, but someone pitched me Carmen Electra like years ago for a cover. You can say to me, I have to do this, she's a new client, I would just love, would you do me a favor and meet her or da-da-da. But they weren't saying that. They couldn't believe. And that made me realize you don't know the magazine then. Now, if anyone you bring me, I'm not going to, any new face, I'm not going to be able to trust that the magazine, what type of people we have on the cover. Maybe, I'm not saying she'll never get it, but at this moment when she's hosting that show, it's just, not, you're not reading the room, and therefore I question your, ability to find talent for me, basically. But over time, that's how you build the relationships, not by going around the system, but by respecting it. That's what actually gets you in the room, got me in the room and kept me there. And I still have, thank God for Stephen Huvane saying that. Not that I'm the person that wouldn't have been kind and honest, because that's who I am. But, all these publicists took my call the day after I left and have answered it ever since. And that made or broke my career on my own, having that support. So
That's unbelievable because that's what make somebody create a true legacy, right? I mean, it's not because of Vogue, but and so many things which you were just saying, and I genuinely feel that there are no shortcuts in life because industry is so small. You're gonna bump into someone today, tomorrow, if you're gonna just spoil something. And I genuinely believe that how you make someone feel, I think that also stays with someone forever. Not what you said, what compliments you give, or whatever.
exactly.
And I work in investments and money matters, right? I'm gonna tell you like something really funny that when I started my career and I was in insurance sales, I was doing a bank assurance and I was working for Prudential, and then a branch employee, actually it was their target, and she sent me to sign one application form, and I went and met that person, and his annual income was literally like 20,000 rupees was his monthly salary, out of which 18,000 he was supposed to put into this policy. And I'm like, how you're just gonna be left with 2,000? And I was just doing the math, and I'm like, yeah, this I'm doing it for my son's school and blah blah blah. We have my wife earns like 3,000 rupees, so we will be able to run our household expenses, but this money belongs to my child's education. And you know what, I didn't sign the document, and I said, you know what, I forgot actually the right form, I've got like something wrong or whatever. I left and I went back to the branch and I told this lady that, listen, I will give you a business wherever I'll get it extra and I'll put it in your name, but I'm not going to do this to this person because this person thinks completely different, and
Right.
put it into fixed deposit and do me a favor because he is not doing out of
Yeah.
his 2 lakh monthly income and putting
Yeah.
18,000 rupees.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay. And it was convinced. And that particular goodwill which I
Yeah.
developed just gave me so much of acceptance
Yeah.
into their ecosystem because the word spread. And anyone, and I'm not even exaggerating, because the pressure was so much, anyone on my place would have signed and got that because there was a contest ending, and there was everyone wanted that, and I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
And I felt good, and I also slept very well that night. If I would have signed, I know
No,
for the
I
fact
know.
that I could not
That's
have.
that's the whole thing.
So, Jill, before I let you go, I have to ask you that if you were to give one piece of advice to all the girls who are listening today, who are dreaming of being in the Vogue or even outside, what would it be, and what would you tell those girls?
So I kind of had to write this because there's so much kind of that I wanted to say and I wanted to get it tight. So what I've learned from doing my podcast is that almost every successful creative I've interviewed says they were in the right place at the right time, that the opportunity found them. And I touched on this earlier. I don't think it's luck. I think that's openness and not giving up on yourself or settling. There was always a college job fair that I didn't even go to as a senior because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know who I was. You know, I hadn't done that growth yet. And I also knew, or the one thing I didn't know, is I didn't want a job. I wanted a career. I didn't want to wish away 5 days of my life a week to live for two. So work has, it's kind of has a negative connotation of labor, right? Work, labor. I wanted it to be passion, you know. I think that's the difference. My job was my life. It was how I lived. It was what I was interested in. It's what I enjoyed to do. Sunday nights, believe it or not, I was excited for Monday morning. And the minute I did not feel that way is when I would leave. And it was exactly when I did leave. The if I was going to dread going to work which is where I spent the majority of my life, which is why I called Anna mom once in a meeting. She wasn't in the meeting, but no one ever let me live it down. I spent more time with her than I spent with my mom. I was there 20 years. I lived at home for 18. And I was at school. Here I was with Anna and I was sleeping the other times.
Yeah.
But about being open, like don't settle, man. Like just don't, because if you're closed off or if you've already decided what your path is supposed to look like, those opportunities don't find you. You're not available for them, not available to receive. I remember being a senior in college, what I said, not knowing what I wanted to do. I wanted to experience and find out what I didn't want to do. That helps you focus and
Yes.
figure out what you enjoy doing. And did I know that there was a job that booked that person on a cover? No. But I kind of just, I moved out to LA by myself after college to find myself. If I had gone to New York, where everyone from that small conservative school was going, where I was the oddball for wearing a Betsy Johnson catsuit or Betsy Johnson at anything, then I would have been, I would have become what they thought I was, if that makes sense. I needed to go somewhere and figure out who I am, not just spending every day being the counter to what everyone else was, right?
Sure.
So that was definitely, it was scary and it was fearful. But as I said with the roller coaster, I, you know, if fear is the reason I don't do something, that will stay with me longer than the fear itself. So I make myself do the things that scare me because the more you try, the more you learn what you don't like, and that gets you closer to what you do like. So my advice is stay open, don't settle, and don't let fear make your decisions. Because when you're open, you don't just get lucky. You're actually in a position for those opportunities to find you.
Oh my God, I love this. I love this. And I'm gonna listen to this a few more times because I really, really, really believed every word you said. So,
I mean, I
but
could talk
before,
for hours, as you know.
but this is amazing. But before I let you go,
Yeah.
final quick rapid fire questions. Whatever comes to your mind, just bring it up. What is that one non-negotiable daily self-care routine?
It used to be working out when I used to run minimum 6 miles. It's like Linda, who wouldn't get out of bed for less than 10,000. I wouldn't get out of bed for less than 6 miles. But, you know, it's it's crazy. It's crazy town over here. So what I do every morning is make my green juice with my Ninja juicer, Ninja Kitchen. And I do not work for them. I do not get anything
Free.
for promoting them. It's not an ad. I'm just a fan. That's what I always say. But that's what I do. I'll make probably why I was a little late with you today is because I have to go to the store and get all the my like 20
Ingredient.
carrots and my kale but that's something you know what? It's because I'm the type of person that just wants everything. If I can minimize the time something takes, right, I will do it. So if I can get every vitamin I need for the whole day by chugging this brown thing, I'll do it because then I don't have to think about it for the
Yeah.
rest of the day. At least I
Okay.
start off with everything. It's the quick way to do it. So that would be, I just
Okay.
can't travel with it. So
Okay. Fair. If you were to meet 16 years old Jill today, what would you tell her?
that someday you won't be a nerd,
My
really.
God. And
Someday you
that's so
won't be a
deep.
nerd, and people won't believe you when you tell them you were a nerd.
Three upcoming designers or designers you believe in or you would invest into.
I only shop online. My daughter says like, you know, tells people that I order everything on Amazon, even her food. But it's like I don't have time to shop. Like again, I'm looking to, where I can shave time off. So I was looking at Net-a-Porter when it's kind of the sale time, and I found like these designers, Doen, I think it's called, Doen. Amazing. I went to their
Really?
store. I got a discount, an editorial discount, thank God. And the little knits and the with the puff sleeve and the
Oh,
pastel colors and these great, just the fit is female designed, and you can feel
really?
it. Like, and
Yeah.
that's the reason I went to the store. I have not been
Oh,
in a store, but now I have a great outfit to wear to Grace Coddington's birthday party. And with that, the skirt is this brand Posse, Posse, the most beautiful brown with baby blue polka dot silk, just skirt
really?
just below the knee. It's
Okay.
like beautiful. I love them. Susie Condi, which I'm wearing right now, the most comfortable stuff. I I spent way too much money, but this is a terry little striped shirt. I mean, it's a little cropped, super cute. And Jamie Heller loafers, the most
Okay.
comfortable shoes you'll ever. I
Really?
mean, you will feel like you're wearing slippers, and it's a leather loafer, and
No
that'll
way.
go into an answer later. But and then Maison de Sabre, bag designer. I got this beautiful Kelly green little bag, and it has the straps that can be worn as a clutch, like a little handbag, or it could
Uh-huh.
be a crossbody.
Really? Okay.
Yep,
I'm
can't
gonna
wait to
I'm
wear
gonna
it.
take all these names and I'm gonna tag for
Yeah.
people to actually listen to and read this. But okay, so one um power outfit which you would recommend everyone should wear before entering into any big meeting.
I mean, everything's changed now, right? With meetings and how they're conducted. I mean, I left Vogue and was working from home before everyone had to, and it was really weird, right? Like this whole, that's when I started doing my cat eye because I was like looking at myself so much. Um, but I just think, if you get if you, the perfect white shirt, it can be a white tee. I am like a connoisseur of the perfect white V-neck. and I have probably 100. Some are sheer, some are shorter, some are longer, that can tuck in, that can crop and hit at the waistline. And it can be a white button down too. So you need that piece that goes under this navy blazer. Navy blazer, I would highly recommend, just cooler than black. Like I feel like I don't like wearing a black blazer in the summer. A navy blazer can still be worn with black, and Frankie Shop has the best. They're these oversized, roll up the sleeves, super chic, and that immediately elevates a jean. So, you know, get your jean, get the jean that you feel just awesome in. Even Zara makes these body shaper jeans. So what they do is they cut the waist so it actually curves, right, instead of being straight.
Yeah.
So it's a high waisted with the seams that for your hips,
Yeah.
and they're skinny, and just so that's my thing. Like, because you can, you know, mix and match it if you have the white button down or the tee that goes. That's what I've worn on all my shoots lately. Is that navy, the white or the white and blue striped button down, and a jean, and my brown Jamie Heller loafers. That's
Love
it.
that. And when I'll wear them next, I'll click a picture and send it to you. Inspired
Yes.
by Jill.
Yes.
Three wardrobe essentials you would recommend every woman should have her in her closet.
I guess those three. I mean, I would think it was, I guess if it has to be essential and it's not just me and I'm much more casual, but then it would be the button down, just a really perfect cut. And if that even has to be like a Savile Row or whatever it has to be, like, you're wearing a button down now, like that shape where it's not too wide, right? That you can tuck it in without
Yeah.
that bagginess if you're wearing it with a jean. Or, sometimes it's just, I love how they're making these more cropped, not cropped like crop tops. I'm talking just hits
Yes.
the belt,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
it's not that awkward length, and it just
No.
can't be too wide. You want room, you don't want that skin tight, like, you know, button
Yeah.
down or the shrunken even. Like, I love Band of Outsiders. Scott Sternberg was my buddy, but I'm not talking a shrunken, although that's good for some places. You just need one that you can wear different ways. You can tie it in a knot, wear it with a skirt showing some skin, or be able to tuck it into a slack, a pant, a work skirt or whatever. And then I would say the blazer for sure, because that can be worn. You have to, I think I'm conscious of spending, right? Because I do work for myself and I have a child. And so I'm trying to think of convertible fashion, like what can I
More
convert
versatile.
into many different ways, right? And the
Sure.
blazer, just throw it over your shoulders to
Yeah.
go to a cocktail party. How
Yeah.
chic. And then for me, I'm in jeans every day. So for me, who sexy with a jean? Look at Cindy Crawford. Hello. When did she look her sexiest? In that perfect jean with the white tank top in the phone booth in the Pepsi ad.
I agree. I
Those three
agree.
things. Spend the money if you have to get a jean that you just feel amazing in, or get them at Zara because that's where I get mine.
One accessory that instantly elevates any look.
I would say where Candy Pratt's Price would say jewelry. I'm not a jewelry person, as you see, except for my catbird little hoops. But I think a bag. I think you can take a bag or a shoe. It's a toss up because you can add a chic, a sneaker with a jean or a heel. Not that I would ever do a high heel because after breaking my foot, which I talked about, I haven't been able to. But a chic shoe with a white button down and jeans can change that from, you know, uh, a
Casual.
casual look to
Yeah.
a date night look, or the bag you throw on it. My green, Maison de Sabre, already that it takes it to the lady who lunches. From wearing a backpack, carrying my daughter's backpack home from school.
Love that. And last but not least, one holy grail skincare routine or some hack or product you have seen models use it and it changed it or it changed your life. If you can give us any recommendation.
I mean, I have to say, I really think I don't believe in many things, okay? And I have sensitive skin, so whenever I try something new, it just doesn't work. So I stay pretty much with the Gucci Westman, the skin activator for face and eye,
Okay.
because she truly, put so much time into researching those products for her rosacea and for anything. But my new thing that I've seen on Bravo a lot, and I'm like, who travels with their Shark Beauty light mask? Because I just got the new Away bigger carry-on. I stuffed that thing till I thought I was going to be the first to ever break one. But I use it every day, and what I'm going between right now is the anti-aging, which is a certain color light, and that's a 6-minute daily routine to like today, I have a small breakout. I'm just trying to keep my skin healthy. So it's just from not sleeping, and I got sick over the weekend. So there's a skin clearing. And one's blue and one's red light, and that's for 9 minutes. And yeah, I do it. You know what I do? If you could be a fly on the wall in my apartment, you would have seen me with the mask making my juice this morning.
Love that. And I
Because
I
you can
have
clip it
those.
onto your jean. So I'm literally, my dog's like, what is going on? But yeah, they just make the best products. And it's not an ad, I'm just a fan. But, that's something that I do believe. And I'll tell you, someone I know uses that light mask on her son who, has like an alopecia or something like that. I don't even know if that's right, but is losing some hair from like anxiety and stress. And that light, her mask on his head has helped that regrow. So
Really.
that's scientific. I trust science. I don't trust, a good salesperson.
So I have that LED red light mask. So I have not bought the head thingy now. I just put the face mask on
Oh
my
no,
head.
yeah, that's what she does for the
Oh,
kid.
okay. But now
She uses, oh,
they have come
they
up with the
do?
head thingy. Yes, like,
Oh my
helmet.
gosh.
So they
Yeah,
have
that's
a helmet
crazy.
kind of thing. I'm like, I'm not gonna
Yeah,
spend
no.
hundreds.
Unless it changes my grays
Oh,
and
yeah.
makes me not have to go to the
Please
hairdresser.
let me know. I will be the second buyer.
Yeah, exactly.
But Jill, thank you so much for this
Thank
masterclass.
you.
You spent decades in the shadows of making everyone else look like a star, but today the light was exactly where it belongs. And you have shown us that the devil doesn't wear Prada, excellent does. So you moved from the assistant's desk to the global boardrooms with also your sixth sense and loads of hard work. And you have blown me away with your wit and your wisdom and also being so authentic. So, and also what wonders me that, you did not just wait for the culture to happen, you curated it. So it is my honor, absolutely, to have you. And to all the listeners, remember this is not just a podcast, it's a global sisterhood. It's our own personal fashions night out. So take a page from Jill's blueprint, stop chasing the trends, start listening to your own six senses, and also don't wait for a seat offered at the table. Just build your own room or build your own table.
It's that.
Because if
Amen.
the yes, if the world tries to dim your light, turn the brightness up so high so you have to start wearing black sunglasses like Anna Wintour. So stay bold, stay brilliant, stay stylish, and most importantly, stay powerful. Until next time, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to You Are a Force. Hit subscribe and join us next week for more powerful stories from women rewriting the rules. Until then, keep building, keep leading, and remember, you are a force.